Hi everyone, Cal Wilson from the Working Party. We build themes for clients. And one of my favorite features in Shopify is the old link list or the navigation. And recently Shopify have announced a new beta, which is nested navigation. Now I first heard of this at Unite. I was sitting in the audience and they showed this new feature where a link list is traditionally it's just a single list of items. You can add things, you can drag and drop and rearrange them. Super, super useful, but only a single level. Now we have nested navigation. We can go 3 levels deep. And this opens up all manner of possibilities. And I went back and explored all the different things that we've used linked lists for in the past and thought how they could be 10x using a nested nav. So here's a link with some more information. It's really important to note a few things. Number one, this is not available on existing stores. You have to use a special development store creation link to create a store with the nested navigation feature. So you can't retrofit this into an existing store. This is the link to create the development store. You can just follow this. The slides will be available afterwards. There is some pretty good doco available, so make sure you read it. But I've just been told that you can actually take one of these stores live if you did want to do so. So I've got an example here. I'm not sure how that works. Does that one work? Yeah, there we go. So here you can see on the left-hand side, you might be used to a normal drag and drop list. But here you can see I'm arranging shoes and then a subcategory of shoes, if you will, of high heels, and then a subcategory of that called stilettos. Now typically on a Shopify store we can't do this stuff. We can pretend that we have these kind of nested relationships between collections, but they don't actually exist. With nested nav we can make this stuff happen, and that's super exciting. So what I've done is I've just brainstormed some things that I'm going to be experimenting with in the coming months, and I've put them here to share with you all. Feel free to take them. The pattern here is these orange dots indicate the nesting level of the nested navigation. So I thought I'd start off with something pretty basic, which is the mega menu. I'm sure you guys have all built drop-downs in Shopify themes before. The way to do that these days is we have a navigation list which represents your top level, and then each of those will have a link. And then what we do is we handleize the link text, and then we look for another link list that has that same handle, and if that exists, we turn that into the drop-down. It's okay, it works pretty well. But when we want to build really complex things like a mega menu, where we have this big drop-down area, maybe we've got some titles represented by the big blocks and then some links represented by the smaller blocks, that gets really kind of tough. We have to build a little syntax inside the second list, maybe with, we usually indicate a heading with like 3 hashes or something like that, and then in Liquid we read that and we turn that into a heading, and then we render out the links below. But suddenly this stuff's really easy. All we need to do is build a single nested link list and use the second level for the headings, third level for the links, and we're done. When we hand over our site to a client and we need to write extensive documentation on how they can manage their mega menu, that's really painful and it takes a long time to explain. Suddenly it's much easier. Breadcrumbs. So again, as I said, there's no hierarchical relationship in Shopify collections, for example, or pages or anything like this. Suddenly we can build these things. We can have, let's say, home on the left-hand side. Then number 1 could be about us. Number 2 could be our history, and number 3 could be our founders or something like that. I mean, customers are used to seeing these kind of hierarchies in these types of pages. And suddenly that's available to us as well. This one I'm pretty excited about. So when we go to /collections on a Shopify store, we get a listing of all the collections. And it's been a pretty common practice to overwrite that page and then come up with your own design for how you want to represent each of those collections. But it's just a flat list. It's just a single list of collections. But now we could do something like have shoes and then high heels and then all of the collections inside, which might be, stilettos or pumps or I don't know, whatever else, boots, and then we could have another grouping of collections. So that's kind of exciting. Touching on what Bo talked about, building a faceted filter set using tags. Unfortunately, with tags, we only get and, we don't get or. But what we could do is we could have a different set of faceted filters for every collection, and each collection would then have its own nested nav list, which is driven by the collection name. And then you could have, in this particular instance, we've got type and color as the subheadings, and then a set of tags for each of the of type and color. That's driven by the third tier on that list. And touching on what Jason talked about, enhancing your product descriptions. So, really common approach is that we use meta fields to drive tabs, or we hack in the description with some, hidden HTML comment or something like that. In this particular case, I thought a really good idea could be to have a separate navigation list for each product type. And then when you load the product template, we grab the navigation list for that product type, and then that would drive the tabs across the top. That's the second tier, and then you could put whatever you wanted inside the tabs for the third tier. And this could pull in page content or meta fields or whatever you liked. I thought a cool thing could be to build a store locator. So currently, to build one of these is a bit of a pain. We need to use an app or hack in some with different page templates and link lists. In this particular case, I thought you could have a navigation list called stores. The first tier would be the state. The second tier could be the store itself. And then for each of these, you could load in some geolocation information, and then drive a Google map, let's say on this side, click to show the pin. Something we build quite a bit is curated product recommendations. So unlike an app might just pick things algorithmically, we have some clients that are really particular about different sets of products that they want to show together. So it could be the case that you have a style it with navigation list. The first tier would be a set of product handles, and the second tier could be other products. And of course, you could take that, you've got a whole other tier to play with. You could do all kinds of crazy stuff there. This one we've built a few different ways, but I thought a lookbook would be a really good use case for this. You could have each page in your lookbook could be the first tier. The second tier you could refer to an image, might be a model shot, something like that. And then the third tier you could have a set of products that are represented inside that shot. And you could even do cool stuff like having a spot on the photograph that then links up to that product or something like that. And then it's kind of like a fancy collection page, I guess. Finally, I thought a really crazy one would be an event calendar or something like that. You could have first tier is the year, second tier is the month, third tier is the days. Some of these days might link through to products, represented by the underline, and you could click on that to show some kind of ticket information or something like that. That's just what I came up with in my brainstorm, but I'm sure there's so much more that's available to us now using 3 levels of navigation, so I hope you're all as excited as I am.